Hi, I'm Rodney Gates. I'm the audio director here at Sony Online Entertainment, and my team is responsible for all of the products that we work on here, including PlanetSide 2. The original PlanetSide, no, I never had a chance to work on that. I didn't start here until 2009. So I did play it a bit, but I didn't have a chance to develop it. Following up on the success of the original game, what we wanted to do here with this game, being a first-person MMO shooter that it is to really try to separate the player from everybody else, which has been something that has been kind of difficult to do sometimes in MMO land. And so we wanted everything that the player does to feel a lot cooler than what you're hearing everybody else doing. Even though on their machines it sounds awesome too, right? So we have first-person perspectives for everything as well as third. So if you're listening to stuff fly around or drive around on the battlefield, distant guns, those kinds of things, all that stuff sounds different than what you've got. They're completely different assets. So we feel that that helps separate the player and make it a personal experience even though you're in a giant world fighting. Yeah, there were plenty of challenges. I mean, when we started working in this engine, we didn't have vehicle engine tech. We didn't have all kinds of things that really we hadn't done a lot of before since probably PlanetSide 1, but being a completely different engine, a much improved engine. We had to get all that stuff put back in there, including all these perspective changes for weaponry and that kind of thing, and vehicle interiors versus exteriors. But I think our biggest challenge, and it's kind of funny, was the jump jet. Because that thing, it's simple as it seems, that thing would break all kinds of ways and would play 2 or 3 times in a row and that kind of thing. And it finally took us a little while to nail it down, but we finally did. The thing that I'm most proud of, I think, in PlanetSide 2 is the overall, I think, depth of the soundscape that we were able to create. We have a lot of different assets cross-fading between close and distant stuff. When things fire off, tanks fire off in the distance, there's a sound propagation delay, just like you would hear in real life. It takes a second for the sound to get to you. And then big, the whole game's in surround sound, so big quad reflections bounce off that, which simulate the canyons and stuff in the area, as well as just, the overall FPS feel. We tried our best to get the closest AAA feel that we could in an MMO style game, which is pretty tough when resources are at a minimum. But I think we came pretty close with the idea that I had in my mind. Well, what I did was years back in the late 90s, I went to basically just a kind of a general recording arts school. Back in the late 90s, like game audio wasn't big on the forefront at all. It was just really starting to bud, switch over from the beep boop era into the stuff that we heard, that we hear today. So, but a lot of the same fundamentals and principles apply, just like, an artist would, do a lot of life drawing. It's going to help him sculpt models and things easily. So a lot of the same techniques and tools and stuff are pretty much the same as we use in post-production and music production as well. So that's how I got started. It was kind of a niche thing. Yeah, the first game that I played, I popped the CD-ROM in, was Medal of Honor Allied Assault on PC back in 2002. And I heard the orchestral score come up, and I heard all the weapons sounded very realistic as they're storming the beach at Normandy, and I was like, wow, this sounds fantastic. This sounds almost like Private Ryan or something like that. And then it occurred to me, there must be people that are doing this for a career. So I was trying to find my niche in music or audio, and not liking some of the traditional paths that other people who have learned that trade have gone down. For me, it was all about games, and it just clicked at that moment back in 2002, and 10 years ago. So that was my start. First games I worked on were in console land. On the original Xbox and PlayStation 2, I worked on a vampire western called Dark Watch for High Moon Studios. I think it was Sammy back at the time, up in Carlsbad, not too far from here. And from there, it rolled into Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Conspiracy game based on the Bourne franchise, and then into Transformers War for Cybertron before I came to Sony Online. So ever since I've been here, it's been everything since, from EverQuest expansions on up to PlanetSide 2. Oh yes, absolutely. Our beta forums are absolutely filled with people, and they have a lot of great feedback and great ideas. And they don't realize the complexity, if they're not game developers, of even trying to make simple changes sometimes. So, but there's certainly lots of lots of people out there that say, oh, you know, get me in there and I'll do this and that and whatever. And of course, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. You know, it all depends on time and resources. No, I haven't worked on a game that I haven't cared for. There's always been something interesting enough from the audio's perspective. What can we do? How far can we push the tech? There were lots of tech demos and things that we started, and then like mergers occur, and then they throw those games out. So if there was a game, I think that if I liked the least, even though I did have a lot of fun on it, it might have been Transformers, only because when I grew up, I watched Voltron, and I wasn't a Transformers fan really, kind of thing. So I didn't get some of the click stuff that was in there. But trying to push the boundaries, especially with the films having just come out, you know, trying to surpass what they did even in the films was a really good challenge. So art stylistically and artistically, it was really fun. But just overall, the story was, not my cup of tea, really. Day-to-day basis, I usually touch at least 2 to 3 games. It could be something as simple as, you know, a little mount running around in free realms, and then switch over and hook up a bunch of blaster sounds to Clone Wars Adventures, some combat stuff in that game, and then jump right back into PlanetSide 2 to flesh out a battle rifle or something like that. So it kind of varies a little bit day by day. Sometimes we get big dialogue drops in, we have to edit all that stuff, get it in the game. So it's usually pretty diverse. So it's lots of fun. Sure, yeah. My basic advice is don't be lazy. So, you know, go out there, learn the craft if you don't know much about recording and software and what have you. See what people are using, that kind of thing. There's so many resources online that you can read now, whether it's articles from guys that work in film or TV or whatever. With the web, it's just, there's so much information you can find even before you start. But then work on a custom demo, you know. Try to put in as much of your own original source sound that you can. And not just cut a bunch of stuff from libraries, you know, which is pretty identifiable, that kind of thing. And, you know, obviously most people that pursue this path are passionate, so that's probably a given, but you definitely can't be lazy. Sure, yeah, like our studios here, they're not too big. They're about the size of an average office. They're all enclosed. Most of us are working in 5.1 with good systems, and we also have cheap PC speakers on our desks to make sure that our mixes and sounds are translating correctly. But really, it's like, you know, very different from like a big full-blown music recording facility with a giant SSL console and stuff like that. You really won't see that stuff in games unless you're lucky enough to have a really big mix room or something. But most of the time, it's just a small Pro Tools edit suite with a good library of sounds at your fingertips, and hopefully you're working in 5.1, so you can do some cinematics work as well. But it's kind of like a cockpit, you know, kind of small. Right, like for PlanetSide, we didn't do any field recording specifically for it, for weaponry, that kind of thing. Those are some trips I've done a couple in the past. And they're lots of fun because you're always getting material that nobody else has. And, but with a lot of the design of the weapons that we have in PlanetSide, they don't necessarily traditionally follow your standard black powder weaponry types. There's one empire that does. And the others are kind of like, this is magnetic propulsion, and the other guys are energy and that kind of thing. So you have to pull out, you know, other tricks up your sleeve to add some elements in there to do that. So. But luckily, we do share a library with Sony Computer Entertainment as well, and they have done a lot of great field recording and stuff in the past. So we were able to use a lot of assets from that as well. Check out PlanetSide 2. It's awesome. It launches November 20th. As a developer, I can tell you I was super surprised when I got into the game and played beta for the first time with a bunch of the public. And it was a completely different experience, and it was addictive and fun, and it was hard to go to bed at midnight every night when the server shut down. So get out there and play it and live free in the NC.